All right, I am thrilled today to be speaking with the amazing Lisa Carpenter, and here she is right in front of me. So if you're listening on the Sasaga podcast, you might also want to go over and look on YouTube and see Lisa in person. She's looking fabulous. So let's start with Lisa. For those who don't know you, who are you and how do you help women?
Well, first, thank you for inviting me on. It's always a pleasure to spend time with you, even with our crazy time zone differences. So I appreciate you having me on and getting to chat with you. So my name's Lisa, and I work with driven, high-achieving women, really helping them to make their physical and emotional well-being one of their top priorities. Because what I find is that women typically put themselves last. We put our career, our kids, family, all these things, and then we get the scraps of our lives. And things never go well when we end up at the bottom of our pile. The other thing I really support women with is helping them connect in with what they're feeling. Mm-hmm. So I work with a lot of women who are doers, right? Again, the high achieving women, and they're not typically connected in with how they're feeling. So they just go through the day doing, not recognizing, am I even liking what I'm doing? How do I feel? Do I feel the way I want to feel? We get so caught in that rat race. So I call myself an emotional resiliency or emotional fluency coach. Mm-hmm. And all of it leads back to, how we can take better care of ourselves.
All right. And that is such a hot topic. It's something that I think has been important for years here in Japan and now even more so. So what about for you personally though, Lisa? Could you share a little bit about your story of how you became this kind of representative of self-care and this role model to women?
Such a, when I look back over my career, because I've been a coach now for 20 years, which is mind blowing. I started out as a personal trainer, and then I moved into teaching nutrition because most women who were coming to me really wanted to transform their physical body. And you can exercise till you're blue in the face. Unless you actually change what you're eating, not much changes. So I moved into nutrition. And from there, I grew a thriving business based on a program that I taught called EAT, which basically helped people put the pieces of their nutrition together. And then what ended up happening, long story short, my husband went into rehab for an addiction to drugs and alcohol. My life was taken out at the knees, so to speak. And I really had to come face to face with all the garbage that I was standing in my life. And what I quickly came to realize was that the struggles that I was supporting women with around their food and their bodies had more to do with their lack of connection with themselves. So food became this way to numb out. Now, what I learned for myself is that I was walking through life numb. So here I was supporting women, coaching women, helping them transform their lives. And I had no idea that I was standing in my own hot mess of a life. So I started to dismantle how I saw the world. Mm-hmm. I had to learn how to slow down. Mm-hmm. I had to learn that all this overdoing and overworking and being busy and striving and pushing and wanting to achieve more and more and more mm-hmm. really came from this deep-rooted belief that I wasn't good enough. Mm-hmm. And I was suffering from low self-worth. But if you had asked me, I would have said, no, I'm awesome. Because who rolls out of bed in the morning and says, wow, I need to work on my self-worth today. So it really became a dismantling all these different parts of me and looking at how much codependency, and I don't know if that's something you guys talk about in Japan, but codependency is a variety of behaviors that can actually become addictions that prevent us from being connected to ourselves. So things like overworking, perfectionism, making sure that everybody else is happy and taken care of, right? Caretaking. people pleasing. So just saying yes because you don't want anybody to not like you. Constantly doing things to get other people's approval. So if you say I'm good enough, then I get to be good enough. Striving, pushing, and it rolls into as well food, alcohol, right? All the different things, shopping, social media, all these things prevent us from connecting in with ourselves. So these were the things that I started to unravel layer by layer, peeling them back to realize that they were never really who I was, but things that I learned and picked up at an early age to protect myself from the world, whatever it may be. So this is how I ended up in the business of teaching self-care, not as something you do, but why are we not? What is at the heart of us not taking care of ourselves? Because things we love and we value, we take care of. So if we're not taking care of ourselves, what does that say? So women come to me for a variety of reasons. Some of them, like I said, around their bodies. Some of them are overdoing it, too busy and burnt out. But this is how my work has grown and evolved. So I went from food to, it's not about food. It's about this. Food is just a symptom of the problem. And that's kind of where I've landed. My career has just evolved over the years.
And and thank you as well for being very open and talking like this, because I think this really helps people who are listening, people who are watching. I understand you also had adrenal fatigue at one point, and how did that impact you?
Yeah, so after hubby came home from rehab, and he's been in recovery for, I think it's 9 years now. As you start to slow down, it's kind of like when you go on vacation, you've been working and then you go on vacation and people typically get sick. So imagine going for however many years. And then here I was learning to slow down. And all of a sudden I started to get really sick. I couldn't get out of bed in the morning. I got dizzy. If I rolled over. And that was being caused from my blood pressure dropping because I was already so healthy. I was working out all the time. So I'd roll over in bed and I would feel dizzy. My hair was starting to fall out. My sleep patterns were disrupted. There's a multitude of symptoms that people run into. You get weird cravings, weight gain that won't come off, low sex drive, no sex drive. So adrenal fatigue kind of was not what I was expecting. But it was the next phase of me sitting back and really saying, okay, I'm not actually taking care of myself. So here I thought I was taking care of myself because I was exercising, I was eating all the right things, but it was the overdoing. So adrenal fatigue is about your body is constantly trying to mitigate stress. And I was always running at such a high level of stress. But because I was such a high achiever and so ambitious, I normalized a life that wasn't normal. So up at the crack of dawn, staying up till late, doing all the things in my business, dealing with my kids. I had no connection to myself. So I was constantly being run by my emotions. So there was a lot of, exploding and yelling and losing my mind. All of these led up to adrenal fatigue. And that's when I really, really had to learn how to slow down, how to do less better, and appreciate that when we are resting, we are actually doing something. There's more value in the rest than there is in the doing.
Okay, and that is fantastic because my next question was going to be about rest. So, because this is actually one of the questions. So you have some fans in Japan, and I'm sure that after this podcast episode, you're going to have a lot more fans in Japan after this. So I said to some of the people I know who already follow you, what would you like to ask Lisa? Because I'm going to be having a conversation with her. And one of the questions was about rest. And it may sound simple, how do you rest?
How do you rest?
Yeah.
It does sound like such a simple question with an easy answer. You rest. You make the decision to rest. But when you've been on that hamster wheel, going, rest feels very foreign. And for so many of us, we've attached so much value, like our personal value and our personal worth, to the doing. And rest holds beliefs like it's lazy, or it's not, I don't want to be one of those people. Or maybe our parents programmed us that you have to work hard all the time.
Yeah.
But if we look at rest as nourishing, life-giving, you know, the metaphor that I use is that you would never expect a newborn baby to not take naps, because as a mom, you would lose your mind. But we want our kids to take naps when they're little, because we know that they're going to be more even-tempered if they're resting, and we know they need to rest to grow. This is what rest does for us as adults too. So we might not need to take naps. I mean, you can. I'm still not a great napper, but I do a lot more laying around and doing nothing. But rest is about making the choice that you need to slow down, because when you slow down, you're actually going to perform better. So even if you look at it from an athletic standpoint, we don't grow when we're in the gym. We grow when we're resting. It's actually a key component of success as an athlete or in the business place. Because think about, do you perform at your best when you're tired?
No, of course not.
Nobody does. So how do you rest? You make the decision that it's going to be something that you're committed to, and you make it a priority. So it might be as simple as committing to a bedtime every night and saying, well, I'm going to get 8 hours of sleep or 7 hours of sleep. It can be as simple as that. It can be as simple as saying, on the weekend, part of my rest is going to be unplugging from social media and keeping my phone turned off, because even that is a rest, like mentally shutting off from being on screen can be a rest. So I think the first thing to ask yourself is what kind of rest are you needing? What feels like you could dip your toe into it and stay committed to it? And really asking yourself, what do you believe about rest? Because again, if you have those negative stories around rest, you're always going to prevent yourself from having more of it.
Yeah, definitely. And it's like what you were saying about what's normal, because in Japan, it's very much a society of hard work for everyone, and women with people pleasing definitely as well. And it was a long time before I could say to people and be okay about it, saying I'm going to take a holiday. So for such a long time, if I said that I was taking a day off, I would actually be making excuses and saying, but I worked really hard yesterday. And
justifying why you had to rest, justifying why you had to rest.
I really felt like I had to justify it. And it's only in recent years that I've started to be okay with, look, I'm taking a break. So, and I still feel like I have quite a way to go. And I know that I've moved on this journey quite a bit to compared with a lot of the women that I speak with.
And I think that's an important point, because as women, we need to rise up together, because what's happening is we're all getting on the work harder bus to try and move ourselves forward. So, well, if she's working hard, then I need to work hard. So how am I going to keep up with her? But at the end of the day, what's more important, that you keep up with somebody else, or that you create a life that you really feel good about? And the last time I checked, burnout doesn't feel good. Being exhausted doesn't feel good. Because you can't enjoy your life from that place. So you have to really ask yourself, what exactly are you pushing and striving and working so hard for? Is it to feel like, what are you trying to get to? What's the end result? Because often when we really take inventory, and I know I did this in my life, when I took inventory, I was like, wow, that thing that I'm striving so hard for, I don't even want it. That's not what I want. I just got, again, on the hamster wheel of, this is what I'm supposed to do. So I would love to see more women really stepping into this place of empowerment and understanding that rest is about honoring our feminine energy, which is really the thing that makes us so powerful. And that rest is such, you will be so much more successful if you can be rested.
Yeah. I love that. And supporting each other. And when we
Yes.
hear about women resting, congratulating them on that.
Yeah, or asking, how do you do that? How can I do that?
Yeah.
We have to stop shaming each other for
Yes.
slowing down. It's like the mom wars, the working moms versus stay-at-home moms. The last time I checked, if you've got kids, you've had to go to war, because parenting is not easy with littles, whether you're working or not, right? Nobody gets a handbook on this. So instead of us battling each other or looking for what the right way to do it is, there is no right way. We need to start supporting each other as women, because I truly believe that if women could get out of their own way and actually sink into their strengths, which is more of their feminine energy, so more of the kind of being energy and the nurturing energy, we would be able to profoundly impact this world.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But a burnt out, exhausted woman is not going to change the world. It's not going to happen. So we really need to rise up together and start to link arms. We need to release this martyrdom energy that we're living with as women. And that covers so many different arenas as well.
Yeah. And I would say questioning again, it's what is normal. I mean, it just made me think of some years ago when I was in a corporate workshop. The discussion was around what time ideally would you want to leave the office? What time ideally? And we're going around the circle and people are saying things like, oh, I'd like to leave by 11 p.m. And I remember this was actually in the days before I'd even done quite a bit of my own work on my self-care. And I was saying that I wanted to leave. I think I was saying like, oh yeah, if I could leave by 5:30, that would be great. And people were saying like 11. And I'm like, are you kidding? That's your ideal, but that's become the normal for people.
That's right. They've normalized it, and it's not normal.
Yeah.
And this is the thing. We keep raising the bar and thinking, well, this is normal, and raising the bar and thinking this is normal. It's not normal. And our bodies are not designed to go, do. And if you continue to push your body that way, it will finally say, I'm out. Yeah. So I want to enjoy my life.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't want disease. I don't want illness. I don't want sickness. When you come face to face with something that stops you from doing the things you love, which is what the adrenal fatigue, I had to slow down my exercise. Everything in my life changed. I don't want to give up the things that I love in pursuit of some achievement that isn't going to make me feel the way I want to feel.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. And there's so much of this, overwork and just not realizing it. Again, just quite recently, I received an email from a woman who's very, very senior in her company, and I was just asking her how things are going in the with the COVID-19 situation, how she's doing, and part of her response was, I'm up until 1 or 2 o'clock every night dealing with work.
Wow.
1 or 2 o'clock every night.
And see, this is part of what's happening now with COVID. It's forced people into, we chatted a little bit about this before we went live. Our bodies are now in a trauma response. Stress, right? So what happens to a high achieving, ambitious woman? Most of them are overfunctioners or high functioners. So they go into high gear and they start doing more. So now they've piled more onto what they were already doing.
Yes.
And pushing their body even more.
Yeah.
And this is going to be a marathon. And in order to run a marathon, you have to be rested. This is not a sprint, right? There's periods of times in our lives where we run sprints and we might have to go all out and work longer hours and do the things, right? We all have moments like that. But we can run sprints when we have put self-care practices and really embrace self-care as a way of being in the first place. But when we've never had that, established in our lives, and then something like COVID hits, and now we've just turned up the volume on things that already weren't working. How can we show up as leaders in the long run And this is what it's about durability. So rest is also about your ability to endure and be emotionally resilient, because when we're exhausted, we have a very hard time navigating our emotions as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then also, this is something else that people wanted to know more about, is the situation of working from home with family. Could you share your views on that one?
So I had pretty much designed my life and my business where I've been working from home now for 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
So when everybody ended up being at home with me, it was disruptive to my energy, because when everybody leaves, even though I'm in my office at home, there's something expansive about knowing that nobody's here.
Yeah.
So for most of your people, they're now working at home. They're not used to working at home. Mm-hmm. Home is where they go to let go of work, even though it sounds like they're working late hours. It's still supposed to be their sanctuary. Now their sanctuary is also their workplace. Mm-hmm. And that creates high levels of stress, not to mention the extra energy of people being home. Like I couldn't figure out why, even though not much had changed for me, why I was feeling more tired. One, it was the trauma response. Two, there were no boundaries, right? Because I'd leave my bedroom, I'd go downstairs to my living room / art room / workout room / family room, the everything room. Mm-hmm. And then I'd go into the kitchen and there's my adult children there. And then there's the 8-year-old, and now the hubby's home. I take a break from my calls in the afternoon. I go downstairs. Can you make me lunch? I'm like, what?
Yeah,
I'm not here. I'm working. I felt like it's been feeling like, bring your family to work month. Yes. So just acknowledging that having more energy around is challenging, and being kind to yourself, because thinking that you can do at home what you did at the office and you should be able to just block it out. It's not that way. Yeah. I mean, even my workouts are different because I'm in my living room. It's very different than going to the gym. Mm-hmm. And as humans, we love certainty, even though we never have certainty. Mm-hmm. We love to believe that we have certainty. Mm-hmm. We don't like change, and it takes us a while to adapt. So although we are highly adaptable, that process of adapting is exhausting, because now everything that you could do on autopilot, you now have to think more about. You have to think more about going to the grocery store. You can't just run to the grocery store. Now it's like, okay, what's the best time to go to the grocery store? What do I need to bring with me? What do I need to get? Like our brain is having to process through so many more steps. Working at home, your brain is having to process through so many more steps and so many more obstacles that weren't there. And I don't think people are realizing the magnitude of how exhausting it is moving through life when things that you would put on autopilot, are no longer on autopilot. So the best thing is to, again, try and set those boundaries around rest and work. Try and put your work in a contained space and give yourself more downtime. Yeah. Like, it is okay to have downtime. It is okay to unplug and really ask yourself, what do I need to thrive? So you don't have to like something to accept it. Acceptance opens up possibility for, okay, well, I don't like this. I'm going to accept it. Now, what can I bring into my world to support me feeling the best way that I can feel within the circumstances that are swirling around me? For me, that looked like committing to getting up and going for walks at the crack of dawn, even though it was so cold out. Making sure I was giving myself space, getting in the car, going for a drive if I needed to, opening up times on my schedule so I could have more space to breathe, setting boundaries with my family. I'm not here. Please don't talk to me. When I come into the kitchen, I'm not here to serve you lunch. The fridge is there. Like, please stay out of my way. Like, just pretend like I've got the invisibility cloak on. So really, expressing to my family what I needed. And, my husband's not working right now. I am. So he's doing the homeschooling. For those of you that are working and trying to school at the same time, lower the bar.
Yeah.
Lower the bar of expectations on yourself, because this is not normal to be working from home, schooling your children, doing all the things, like basically putting your butt on 5 different horses at the same time. It's not possible. So this is an opportunity for everybody to look at how they can show themselves more kindness and compassion.
Absolutely. And, this rings so true for me right now. I spoke on last week's podcast episode about how I had an uncharacteristic meltdown. So I haven't actually really lost my temper for quite a long time, but just the other day, it was like explosion. And it's really, it's what you're talking about, because this buildup of being in a different situation, having people in the house the whole time, and just not being able to do as much as I wanted to do. And I've been having to say to my team members, okay, I'm going to have to reduce, because I cannot do as much as I want to do and what I would normally do in this current situation. It's just not, it's not feasible.
No. And this is when you are, driven and ambitious and high achieving, we want what we want when we want it.
Yeah.
So that element of that, we're really coming face to face with what it feels like to lose control.
Yes.
And this is where, like, when we have these emotional explosions, it's because we're actually not present to what we're feeling. And so many of us high functioners, we have tried to step over the sadness, the deep grief, the frustration. There's so many emotions in this, and we can go to gratitude, and we're experiencing the whole rainbow, but we've really tried to step over those feelings that make us feel bad, because we're just trying to lock things down and keep doing what we're doing, because we're just trying to hold on to control. But those feelings inside us of frustration and sadness and grief, they want to be heard and felt. So it's okay to lose your mind. It's okay to say, all of this is here, and let it move through you, because then it won't hold you hostage. And it's okay to lower the bar. It doesn't mean you're failing. It means you're human. And again, we're here to be endurable.
Yeah. And I would say actually that lowering the bar is success, because it takes courage. It takes courage to do that. So yeah, I'm all for that.
100%. And this is also a great time to look at, where have you not been asking for help, and where can you ask for more help? Because that's another thing I see with women. They don't want to ask for help because I got this. Yeah. Until you don't.
Yeah. Well, I talked about this last week in the podcast as well, that thanks to that explosion, we had a really good family discussion, and we all shared about, okay, what's frustrating for us at the moment, what would make us more happy. And that just really opened up the lines of communication, which I just hadn't realized how much we were all holding back there. And so that's made a massive, massive difference, even to the extent that my daughter cleaned the kitchen.
It's amazing. That simple question of what's working and what's not working. Yeah. And everybody getting to have a say, put all your cards on the table. Yeah. Because what I see happening over and over is everybody just goes into their default settings or patterns of behavior, which usually aren't super healthy. And nobody actually checks in to say, wait a minute, we don't have to do it this way. Just defaulted to doing it this way. So I love that you got to that point and have been able to shift things. What a huge impact it must be having on your house. Yeah,
it's been lasting impact, because we're all making more effort to just keep things a little bit more organized, to be more considerate of each other. So it's been really, really, really powerful.
That's amazing. I love it.
So I wanted to ask another question, that because there's so much focus on COVID-19 now, and I imagine that people are going to be listening to this podcast years from now, and they'll be listening to Lisa wisdom. So I also want to talk about something that's not necessarily the COVID focus, but also something that I know you have pearls of wisdom on. And this is one of the questions that I received as well from one of your Japan fans, is what about when I'm interested in so many things and I don't know what to commit to?
That's such an amazing question. I'm interested in all the things too. But when you're interested in all the things, you're really committed to none, and you don't really get to enjoy any of them. So when I'm looking at what I want to commit to, I really think about, well, what is going to light me up the most? And I think so many people are afraid if they commit to one thing, it means that they're never going to be able to do that other thing. And when you put something on the shelf, you're not saying never. You're just saying not right now. Not right now. So, you know, I think you know that I had been training to go on stage for fitness, and it got canceled. That was a huge commitment. And my coach said to me, well, we can do another show later in the year. And I said, no, that I got to put a pin in that until next year. I'll work it into my schedule next year, because I'd already made decisions to be committed to other things during the year. And I have learned that if I overcommit to things, that I don't do anything really well. So have the courage to pick the one thing or the two things that you really want to try and give it 100%. And if you decide, you know what, I actually don't like this, I don't want to do it, you can change your mind. And I think that that's something that we get into as high achievers. We put a noose around our neck with commitment, and we forget we have choice. We forget we have choice. So you can commit to something. The key is that you have to take inventory, whether it's every week, every month. You have to look up and say, is this working for me? Am I feeling the way I want to feel? Or did you just get committed to something, put your head down, and you stopped even asking yourself if it's what you still want? So I would say just start with one thing or two things and give it a go. Give yourself 90 days and then reassess. Is this lighting me up? Is this making me feel the way I want to feel? And if it's not, then you can decide, do I want to continue on with this commitment? How do I need to tweak it or change it? Or is it time for me to move on to something else? So it really depends. You know, some things take a commitment of a long time before you see the results that you want to see. So I'd have to have a little bit more context around, like, what are all the things?
Oh yeah, this person who asked this question, she's very active. She does, and the things that that she was talking about, it's a lot of different things helping people. Like, she's doing volunteer activities here, she's doing extra activities in her company, she's doing, you know, in various groups, a lot of helping people.
So I guess the first question I would ask is, what commitment are you making towards the relationship with yourself? Because it sounds like you're committed to a lot of other people, which is amazing. But if there's no room in there, or there's no even interest at looking at, well, how am I being committed to myself? That's where the balance can be thrown off. Because if you're constantly looking at committing to other people, and there's nothing wrong with wanting to help, but if it's coming from a place of, if I don't help other people, I won't feel good enough. It doesn't matter how much you commit to, you're never going to feel good enough, because your worthiness, your self-esteem, your self-worth can't be found in your doing activities. So you can just add more and more and more. So I love having an activity that is about supporting other people, but it has to have a foundation and a commitment that is just for you and that is just about you.
Yeah, and I see that. I've known this lady, it's a Japanese lady. I've known her for some time, and I know that if she can kind of reduce her commitments and get really, really focused, she can be even more of an amazing role model to other women. So I would love to see that.
That's the thing, you know, when we commit to less, we actually achieve more.
Exactly.
It's kind of the same analogy of when we slow down and rest, we actually get to speed up. So
I think that is the key message that we want to convey today. It's all about less is more. It really is.
Do less better, and enjoy your life.
And start looking to other women, seeing examples of them doing that, and show that you're doing that, so that we can spread this and support each other as well.
Exactly. We can all rise up without burning out.
Yeah.
We must stop the burnout.
Absolutely. So that's beautiful to me, Lisa. Is there anything else that you wanted to share with the Sasuga podcast listeners and viewers today?
No, I'm going to say it one more time to make sure everybody really heard it. Really, I want you to really hear this, that things we love and we value, we take care of. You have to point that finger back at yourself. You have to make yourself a priority in your life. Nobody else is going to do that for you. And it is not selfish to put yourself first. When you take care of yourself, you have more energy, more stamina, more clarity, more love, more of all the things that you want to give in the world. So it's okay to rest. Doesn't make you lazy. It's okay to slow down. It doesn't mean that you're not going to achieve what you want. You'll achieve more and you'll feel better doing it.
Fantastic. And how can women find out more about you or contact you?
You can find out about me over on my website, lisacarpenter.ca. You're welcome to follow me on the Full Frontal Living podcast. I talk a little bit faster and it's quite real and raw. You never really know what's going to come out of my mouth from week to week, but that's how I like it, because I'm here to give women permission that we don't have to do things perfectly to have an impact. So that's the Full Frontal Living podcast. And my social media platform of choice these days is Instagram. I love Instagram. So easy.
Yeah. And I would say to women, we'll put all the links in the show notes, and I would say, go and look at Lisa's Instagram, and where she has the images of her show. Like when you have you're doing all the modeling with the wings and everything. It's just absolutely amazing. And I would say absolutely the Full Frontal podcast, Full Frontal Living.
Full Frontal Living. Yeah.
I can't say that. Full Frontal Living podcast is fantastic as well. This is also one of my regular listens. I love that so much. So and I think you might be able to adjust the speed if you find that Lisa's speaking too quickly. You can adjust the speed on your podcast player or listen to it repeatedly. So definitely highly recommended. So we will put the links to the to all those in the show notes. I really strongly recommend that you go and listen and benefit from more of Lisa's wisdom. All right, Lisa, thank you so much. Really appreciate your time today. It's just been an inspiration. You've been an inspiration to me for years now, and thank you so much.
Thank you for having me on. It was a pleasure.